Val woke up the next morning when sunlight came through the workshop window. Tejo had not slept at all. He had been sitting in his chair, watching, waiting, thinking about what to do next. The alien sat up slowly, looking around with those four strange eyes. The wound on its side had stopped bleeding. The bandages were stained dark blue, but Val seemed stronger than before. "You stayed," Val said in his mind. The words appeared like soft whispers. "Where else would I go?" Tejo replied, "This is my home." Val looked at him with an expression that Tejo could not read. Confusion, maybe. Or wonder. "You're kind. You do not know about the galaxy. About other life? We have watched your world for many cycles. You fight among yourselves. You fear what you do not understand. I expected you to hand me to your authorities. Or kill me." Tejo shrugged. "I fix things. I don't break them." He stood up and stretched his tired back. "Are you hungry? I don't know what you eat, but I have rice and vegetables. Some fish too." Val shook its head slowly. "I require only water for now. My body can survive many days without solid nutrition." Tejo brought a cup of water. Val drank it slowly, holding the cup with those three-fingered hands. The silver skin reflected the morning light like a mirror. "I must tell you something," Val said after finishing the water. "My ship is damaged. Badly damaged. Without repairs, I cannot leave your world. And if I cannot leave, they will find me." "They?" Tejo asked. "Who is chasing you?" Val was quiet for a moment. When the words came, they were heavy with fear. "The Dominion. They are an empire that rules 1,000 star systems. They conquered my people many generations ago. We are their slaves now. I was a scientist. I discovered information, dangerous information about what they are planning. I tried to run, to bring this information to others who could help. But they chased me. They shot down my ship. I crashed here." Tejo listened without interrupting. It sounded like a story from a movie. Empires, spaceships, interstellar war. A week ago, he would have laughed at such things. Now he was listening to an alien explain them in his workshop. "Can you fix your ship?" he asked. Val made a sound that might have been a bitter laugh. "No, the core propulsion system is destroyed. The crystal matrix is cracked in 17 places. My people have traveled the stars for 10,000 of your years, and our greatest engineers say that such damage is permanent. Once a crystal matrix breaks, it cannot be repaired. It can only be replaced. And there are no replacements on your world." "Show me," Tejo said. Val looked at him with surprise. "What?" "Show me the damage. Let me see it." "You do not understand. This technology is beyond anything your species has created. It is based on principles that your scientists have not even discovered yet. Looking at it will not help you." Tejo crossed his arms. "Maybe, maybe not. But I have been fixing machines my whole life. Tractors, cars, motorcycles, things that other people said were impossible to fix. I do not know anything about alien technology, but I know how things break, and I know how to make them work again. So show me." Val stared at him for a long time. Then, slowly, the alien stood up. "Very well. I will show you, but do not expect a miracle." They walked out to the crash site together. Tejo helped Val under the tarps he had used to hide the ship. Inside, the vessel was dark and silent. Val touched a panel on the wall, and soft blue lights came on. The interior was strange and beautiful. Curved walls, no sharp corners anywhere. Surfaces that seemed to glow from within. Symbols in a language Tejo could not read scrolled across screens. Everything smelled like rain and metal. Val led him to the back of the ship, to a chamber that contained the engine. And there, in the center of the room, Tejo saw it. The crystal matrix dot, it was about the size of a basketball, floating in a cage of silver wires. The crystal was beautiful, like a diamond made of frozen starlight. But it was also broken. Deep cracks ran through its surface, and some parts had shattered completely. Vel touched a control, and a holographic display appeared. Tejo could not read the alien text, but he understood the red color. Red meant bad. Red meant broken beyond repair. Every diagnostic confirms the same result, Vel said. The matrix cannot generate stable energy fields anymore. The cracks disrupt the harmonic patterns. My ship is dead. Tejo did not respond. He was studying the crystal, walking around it slowly, looking at it from every angle. He looked at the cracks, at the way they spread through the structure. He looked at the silver wires that connected to the crystal at various points. He thought about old tractor engines that cracked in winter. He thought about car batteries that failed because of one broken connection. He thought about all the machines he had fixed by finding ways around the damage, not through it. How does energy flow through this? He asked. Vel seemed surprised by the question. The crystal generates resonance waves. Energy flows from the core to the outer surface, then back again, creating a self-sustaining cycle. The wires distribute this energy to the rest of the ship. And the cracks stop this flow? Yes, the cracks break the resonance patterns. Energy escapes through them instead of cycling properly. The system becomes unstable and shuts down. Tejo nodded slowly. He was beginning to see something. Not the alien science. He did not understand that at all. But he understood the logic. Energy needed to flow in a certain path. The cracks broke that path. If the path was broken, you either fixed the path or made a new one. Wait here, he said. He went back to his workshop and started gathering things. Copper wire, pieces of metal from old engines, an old car battery, tape, tools. He filled a bag with everything he thought might be useful and returned to the ship. Vel watched him with confusion. What are you doing? I do not know yet, Tejo admitted. But I have an idea. He worked through that day and into the night. He did not eat. He barely drank. He just studied the crystal, tested things, failed, tried again. Vel explained the basic principles when Tejo asked questions. Energy flow, resonance patterns, harmonic frequencies. Most of it made no sense to him, but some of it did. Enough of it. On the second night, he started building something. He wrapped copper wire around sections of the crystal that were still intact. He connected these wires to metal plates that he positioned around the cracks. He ran more wires from these plates back to the silver cage that held the crystal. This will not work, Vel said, watching him. You are trying to bypass the damaged sections, yes? But the energy signature will not be compatible with primitive conductors. Maybe, Tejo said without stopping his work. But energy is energy. It wants to flow. It will find a way if you give it a path. Vel shook its head, but said nothing more. On the third night, Tejo connected his creation to the old car battery. He did not expect it to actually power an alien crystal. That was impossible. But he thought it might give the system a small push, a spark to start the process. He closed the final connection and held his breath. Nothing happened. Then, slowly, something began to change. The cracked crystal started to glow. Faint at first, then brighter. Energy was flowing through the copper wires, around the cracks, following the new paths that Tejo had created. The system was not perfect. It was not elegant. But it was working. The holographic display changed. The red warning symbols flickered and became yellow. Then, slowly, some of them turned green. Vel stood frozen, its 4 eyes wide with shock. That is impossible, the alien whispered. The matrix is damaged. It cannot. But it was. The engine was humming now. A soft, steady sound like a heartbeat. The crystal glowed brighter, brighter, until Teho had to look away. "I do not understand," Vel said. "I do not understand how you did this." Teho wiped the sweat from his face. He was exhausted. 3 days without real sleep. His hands were cut and bruised from the work. "I don't know how it's supposed to work," he said simply. "I just made it work." Vel turned to look at him. There was something in those 4 alien eyes now. Something that looked like respect. And something that looked like fear. "Your people are very strange," Vel said. "And very dangerous." Teho almost laughed. "Dangerous? I'm just a mechanic." "No," Vel said quietly. "You are much more than that. You just don't know it yet." The alien moved to the control panel and began checking systems. Everything was coming online. Navigation, life support, communications, and most importantly, propulsion. "I can fly again," Vel said. "I can warn my people. I can." The alien stopped and turned back to Teho. It walked over to him and placed its silver palm flat against its own chest. "This is the highest gesture of gratitude among my people," Vel explained. "You saved my life. You achieved what our greatest minds could not. I owe you a debt that I can never fully repay." Vel reached into a pocket and pulled out a small object. It was made of dark metal, about the size of a coin, with strange symbols carved into its surface. "Take this," Vel said, pressing it into Teho's hand. "It is a marker of debt. Keep it with you always. One day, it may be important." Teho looked at the small token. It felt warm in his hand, like it contained some inner energy. "What does it do?" "I cannot explain now, but you will understand when the time comes." Vel moved toward the ship's controls. "I must leave now. Every moment I stay puts you in more danger. The Dominion is searching for me. They will track my energy signature eventually." Teho nodded. He was too tired to argue. "Good luck, Vel. I hope you." The autumn wind moved through the rice fields like a slow river. The stalks bent and whispered in the darkness. It was late, almost midnight, and the village of Bongum was silent. Most people were asleep. Most people had no reason to be awake. Te-Ho was not most people. He sat in his small workshop behind his house, his hands covered in engine oil. A broken motorcycle stood before him on the work table. It belonged to old Farmer Park from the next village. The engine had stopped working 3 weeks ago, and no shop in the city could fix it. They said it was too old. They said the parts did not exist anymore. They said to throw it away and buy a new one. Teho did not believe in throwing things away. He was 38 years old. His hair was starting to turn gray at the sides. His hands were rough from years of work. He had inherited this repair shop from his father, who had inherited it from his father before him. 3 generations of mechanics, all working in the same small building at the edge of Bongum village. Teho lived alone now. His wife, Yuna, had passed away 4 years ago from an illness that the doctors could not explain. After her death, he stopped talking much. He stopped going to village gatherings. He just worked. He fixed tractors and cars and motorcycles and anything else people brought to him. He was good at his job. Some said he was the best mechanic in the entire province. He did not care about being the best. He just liked making broken things work again. The night was quiet. Too quiet. Even the insects had stopped singing. Teho paused his work and looked up. Something felt wrong. The air felt heavy, like the sky was holding its breath. Then he heard it. A sound like thunder, but sharper. A roaring, screaming noise that came from above. Teho dropped his tools and ran outside. He looked up at the sky and saw a streak of fire cutting through the clouds. It was moving fast, too fast, falling toward the ground like a dying star. the object crashed into the rice field behind his house. The impact shook the ground so hard that Tejo fell to his knees. A wave of heat washed over him. Dirt and smoke filled the air. For a long moment, he just knelt there, his heart pounding. His first thought was that it was a plane. Maybe a military jet had crashed. He should call someone. He should report this. But something made him stand up. Something made him grab his flashlight and walk toward the crash site. He did not know why. He just felt that he needed to see it for himself. The rice field was destroyed. A long trench had been carved through the earth, at least 50 meters long. At the end of the trench, half buried in mud and smoking quietly, was something that Tejo had never seen before. It was not a plane. The object was shaped like a curved blade, smooth and dark. It had no wings, no windows, no markings. The surface looked like metal, but not any metal Tejo recognized. It seemed to absorb the light from his flashlight instead of reflecting it. He walked closer, his boots sinking into the wet mud. His hands were shaking, but not from cold. He was afraid. He knew he should be afraid. This thing was not from Earth. He understood that immediately, even though his mind did not want to accept it. Then he heard the sound, a soft, weak cry, like a wounded animal. Tejo moved around the side of the crashed vessel. There, lying in the mud, was a creature. It was shaped like a human, with 2 arms and 2 legs and a head. But it was not human. Its skin was pale silver, almost like mercury. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face. Its fingers were long and thin, with only 3 on each hand. The creature was hurt. There was dark blue liquid leaking from a wound on its side. It was trying to crawl away from the wreckage, but it was too weak. It collapsed face down in the mud. Tejo stood frozen. Every part of his brain screamed at him to run. This was an alien. A real alien. Something from another world. He should call the police. He should call the military. He should get as far away as possible. But then the creature lifted its head and looked at him. Its 4 eyes were filled with pain and fear. And something else. Something that Tejo recognized. Desperation. The look of someone who knows they are dying and has nowhere else to turn. The creature opened its mouth and made a sound. It was a strange sound, clicks and whistles and tones that no human throat could make. But somehow, impossibly, Tejo understood the words. They formed in his mind like thoughts that were not his own. Please, help me. Tejo did not know how this was possible. He did not understand anything that was happening. But he understood those words. He understood what it meant to be hurt and alone and afraid. He made his decision. He bent down and carefully lifted the creature. It was lighter than he expected, maybe 40 kilograms. The silver skin felt smooth and cool under his fingers. The creature made a small sound of pain, but did not resist. Tejo carried it back to his workshop. He laid it down on an old blanket on the floor. He got his first aid kit, even though he had no idea if human medicine would work on an alien body. He cleaned the wound on its side and wrapped it with bandages. The blue blood kept flowing, but slower now. The creature watched him the whole time with those 4 strange eyes. I don't know if this will help, Tejo said quietly. I don't know anything about your kind, but I will try. The creature blinked slowly. Again, words formed in his mind. You are not running away. No, Tejo said. I am not. Why? Tejo thought about the question. He thought about Yuna, about how she had always told him that kindness was the most important thing. He thought about all the broken machines he had fixed over the years, how he never gave up on anything that could be saved. Because you needed help, he said simply. That is enough reason. The creature stared at him for a long moment. Then it closed its eyes and seemed to relax slightly. My name is Vel, it said in his mind. I am what you would call a traveler, a refugee. I was running from enemies. My ship, it is damaged. I cannot. The voice faded. Vel had lost consciousness. Tejo sat back and took a deep breath. Outside, the wind had started blowing again. The insects were singing once more. The world was returning to normal, but nothing was normal anymore. Nothing would ever be normal again. He looked at the alien sleeping on his workshop floor. He looked at the crashed ship smoking in his rice field. He thought about what would happen if anyone found out. The government would come. Scientists, military. They would take Vel away. They would take the ship apart. Everything would become complicated and dangerous. Te-Ho stood up and walked to his shed. He got the largest tarps he could find and spent the next 2 hours covering the crashed vessel. He spread dirt and debris over the tarps. By the time he was finished, the crash site looked like nothing more than a pile of construction materials. It was not perfect. Someone looking carefully would notice something strange, but it was the best he could do. When he returned to the workshop, Vel was still sleeping. Tejo sat down in his old chair and watched the alien breathe. Its chest rose and fell in a slow rhythm. It looked so fragile, so far from home. I don't know what I'm doing, he said to himself, but I will figure it out. He always did. That was what he was good at, fixing things. Tejo woke up to silence, not normal silence, not the peaceful quiet of a morning in the countryside. This was a different kind of silence, a heavy silence, a wrong silence. He lay in his bed for a moment trying to understand what was missing. Then he realized there were no birds singing. There was no wind in the trees. There were no insects, no distant sounds of tractors, no dogs barking in the village. Nothing. The world had gone completely still. Tejo got out of bed slowly. His body was sore from 3 days of hard work. His mind was foggy from too little sleep. Part of him still believed that everything with Vel had been a dream, an exhausted hallucination, that he would walk outside and find his rice field normal, his life unchanged. He walked to the window and looked out. His heart stopped. 3 black shapes hung in the sky above his property. They were massive. Each one was at least the size of a football stadium, maybe larger. They floated there without any visible support, blocking out the morning sun and casting shadows that swallowed his entire house and workshop and fields. They were ships. He could see that much. But they were nothing like Vel's small, curved vessel. These ships were brutal and angular. Sharp edges. Dark metal that seemed to eat the light instead of reflecting it. They looked like weapons. They looked like war. Te-Ho could not move. He could not breathe. He just stood at the window, staring up at those impossible shapes in the sky. Then he saw the light. A beam of white energy descended from the largest ship. It touched down in the middle of his yard, right next to the old well his grandfather had built 50 years ago. The light was bright enough to hurt his eyes, but he could not look away. Figures began to emerge from the beam. 1, then 3, then 7. They stepped out of the light and onto the dirt of his yard like they owned it. Like they owned everything. They were tall, much taller than humans, 2.5 meters at least. They wore black armor that covered their entire bodies, leaving only their faces visible. And their faces, they were humanoid, but sharp. Angular features, pale gray skin, eyes that were solid black with no white at all. They carried weapons. Long, sleek objects that looked like rifles, but more advanced. Much more advanced. One figure walked ahead of the others. This one was clearly the leader. Its armor had silver markings on the chest. Its posture was straight and proud and cold. It looked around the yard with an expression of complete disgust, like it had stepped in something foul. Then it looked directly at Tejo's their eyes met. Tejo felt his blood turn cold. There was no warmth in those black eyes. No mercy, no compassion. Only power and control and absolute certainty. The creature raised one hand and pointed at his house. Tejo finally moved. He ran to the kitchen and looked for anything that could be a weapon. A knife, a hammer, anything. But he knew it was pointless. What was a knife against creatures from space? What was a hammer against ships that could destroy cities? He heard the door open. He had not locked it. There was no point. They would have gotten in anyway. Heavy footsteps. The sound of armored boots on wooden floors. Then silence. Tejo turned around. The leader stood in his kitchen doorway. Up close, it was even more terrifying. Its face was perfectly still, like a mask carved from stone. Its black eyes studied him the way a scientist might study an insect before crushing it. When it spoke, the words formed in his mind just as Vel's had. But these words were hard and cold, like ice. You are the human who repaired the fugitive's vessel. It was not a question. Tejo said nothing. His throat was too tight to speak. I am Commander Kira of the Dominion Third Fleet. The creature continued. You will answer my questions. You will tell me everything about the fugitive designated Vel, where it went, what information it carried, how you achieved the repair that our own engineers declared impossible. Tejo found his voice. It came out small and rough. I don't know where Vel went. The ship left. I saw it go into the sky and disappear. That's all I know. Kira's expression did not change. You are lying. I'm not. I fixed the ship because Vel asked me to. Then Vel left. I don't know anything else. Kira took a step closer. Tejo could feel the cold radiating from that armored body. Could smell something strange, like burned metal. Let me explain something to you, human. The Dominion has ruled this region of space for 50,000 of your years. We have conquered 3,000 species. We have destroyed civilizations that were building cities when your ancestors were still living in caves. Your world is nothing to us. A speck of dust. A minor planet in an unimportant system. Kira leaned down until its face was level with Tejo's. We tracked the fugitive's energy signature to this location. We detected residual readings from the repair work. Your primitive conductors left traces that any scanner can detect. We know exactly what happened here. The only thing we do not know is how a creature from a species that has not even achieved interplanetary travel managed to repair technology that has been considered irreparable for millennia. Tejo's mind was racing. He thought about the small metal token that Vel had given him. It was in his pocket right now. Did Kira know about it? Should he mention it? No. He would say nothing about the token. Something told him it was important. Something told him to protect it. I just fixed it, he said. I'm a mechanic. I fix things. I looked at the problem and found a solution. That's all. Kira straightened up. That is not possible. The crystal matrix requires precise harmonic calibration. It requires quantum-level engineering. A being that has never encountered such technology cannot simply look at it and fix it. Well, I did. For a long moment, Kira just stared at him. Then the commander made a sound that might have been a laugh, but held no humor. Your species is strange. You are arrogant despite your weakness. You lie even when the truth would save you. Perhaps that is why you have survived so long without destroying yourselves. Kira turned and walked back toward the door. At the doorway, the commander stopped. You have one chance, human. Tell me where the fugitive went. Tell me what information Vel was carrying. If you cooperate, your life will be spared. You will be taken to a Dominion facility where we will study how you achieved this repair. It will be uncomfortable, but you will live. Taeho's hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. But he forced himself to stand straight. Forced himself to meet those terrible black eyes. And if I don't cooperate? Kira smiled. It was the worst smile Taeho had ever seen. Cold, empty, cruel. Then we will extract the information from your mind directly. The process destroys the brain tissue as we scan it. It is not pleasant. And when we are finished with you, we will destroy this village as punishment for harboring a fugitive. Every man, every woman, every child erased, as if they never existed. The Dominion does not negotiate. The Dominion does not forgive. Taeho thought about old Farmer Park who had asked him to fix his motorcycle. He thought about Mrs. Kim, who ran the small shop in the village center. He thought about the children who walked past his house every morning on their way to school. He thought about Yuna and what she would want him to do. I told you the truth, he said quietly. Vel left. I don't know where. That's all I know. Kira's smile faded. Very well. You have made your choice. In 1 hour, the cleansing will begin. Perhaps watching your village burn will change your mind. And if not, Kira shrugged. Your species will learn the price of defying the Dominion. The commander turned and walked out. Taeho heard the footsteps fading, heard the soldiers following their leader. He ran to the window and watched them return to the beam of light and vanish back up into the massive black ship. The 3 vessels continued to hang in the sky, blocking out the sun. 1 hour. He had 1 hour before everyone he knew would die. Tae-Ho reached into his pocket and pulled out the metal token. It was warm against his palm. Warmer than before. Almost hot. What do I do? He whispered to it. What can I do? The token did not answer. It just sat in his hand, small and mysterious, while the shadows of the death ships covered everything he had ever known. Taeho closed his eyes and thought about Vel, about kindness, about doing the right thing even when it made no sense. He did not know what would happen next, but he knew he would not betray his friend, even if it cost him everything. The hour began to pass. 40 minutes had passed. 20 minutes remained. Taeho sat in his kitchen, staring at the wall. He had tried to think of a plan. He had tried to think of anything he could do. Call the police? The military? What would they do against ships that could destroy cities? Run away? Where would he go? And what about the village? What about all those innocent people? There was nothing he could do. Nothing. The token sat on the table in front of him. He'd been holding it, hoping it would do something, hoping for a miracle. But it just sat there, small and dark and useless. He thought about his father, about how his father had taught him to fix things. Everything can be fixed, his father used to say. Every problem has a solution. You just have to look hard enough. But there was no solution to this problem. No clever repair. No way around the damage. The Dominion was too powerful. He was just one man. One ordinary, unremarkable man. 15 minutes remained. Taeho closed his eyes and waited for the end. Then the token started to glow. It began as a faint shimmer. A soft light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Taeho opened his eyes and stared at it. The glow grew brighter. The warmth increased until the token was almost too hot to touch. Then, suddenly, it projected something. A beam of light shot up from the token and formed a shape in the air. A symbol. A mark that Taeho did not recognize. The light pulsed once, twice, 3 times. And then in the sky above his house, chaos erupted. Taeho ran outside and looked up. The 3 Dominion vessels were still there, but they were no longer alone. All around them, appearing out of nowhere, were other ships. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. They dropped out of empty space like stones falling through water. Ships of all shapes and sizes. Some were small and quick, darting between the Dominion cruisers. Others were massive, even larger than the black vessels, and they were forming a ring. A defensive circle around Earth. Commander Kira's voice exploded in his mind, filled with rage and confusion. What is this? Identify yourselves. A new voice answered. It was calm and ancient, like mountains speaking. This is the Free Worlds Coalition. Your aggression against this planet ends now. Taeho stared at the sky, his mouth hanging open. The Coalition ships were beautiful. Unlike the brutal Dominion vessels, these were elegant, curved, bright. They looked like they had been grown rather than built. Some glowed with soft lights. Others shimmered like they were made of crystal. A shape descended from one of the Coalition ships. It was not a beam of light like the Dominion used. It was a platform, floating gently down to the ground. And standing on that platform were several figures. Taeho recognized one of them immediately. The alien looked different now, stronger, healthier, though. Was wearing simple white clothing that seemed to flow like water. Behind Vel stood other beings, aliens of species Taeho had never imagined. A creature covered in blue scales. Another that looked like a living tree. A third that seemed to be made entirely of light. And in the center of them all was an ancient being. This one was humanoid, but impossibly old. Its skin was like dried paper. Its eyes were milky white, yet it radiated power. When it moved, reality itself seemed to bend around it. This must be the leader, the one who had spoken. The platform touched down in Taeho's yard. Vel stepped off and walked toward him. The alien's 4 eyes were bright with emotion. Taeho, Vel said, I am sorry we could not come sooner. We had to gather the fleet. We had to be ready. Taeho could barely form words. How? The token. Vel smiled. It was strange to see emotions on that silver face, but the smile was warm. The token was not just a marker of debt. It was a beacon. It recorded your location and sent a signal when danger approached. When the Dominion arrived, the beacon activated. The Coalition received the signal. And we came. The ancient being stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice carried weight like nothing Taeho had ever heard. I am Elder Soren. I have led the Free Worlds Coalition for 700 of your years. We have fought the Dominion since before your species learned to write. And in all that time, we have watched many worlds, studied many species, looking for allies, looking for hope. Soren turned to look at Taeho directly. Those milky white eyes seemed to see everything. We have watched your world for a long time. We saw your wars, your cruelty, your foolishness. Many in the Coalition believed humanity would destroy itself before it ever reached the stars. But we also saw something else. Creativity, adaptation, a refusal to accept the impossible. Soren gestured toward Vel. This one brought us proof. A story about a human mechanic who repaired technology that our greatest engineers could not. A human who used primitive materials to achieve what millennia of advancement had declared impossible. Not because he understood our science, but because he refused to believe something was broken beyond repair. Ho shook his head. I just made a bypass. I routed the energy around the damaged parts. Anyone could have done it. No, Soren said firmly. Anyone could not. That is exactly the point. Our engineers studied the damage and accepted that it could not be fixed. They followed their training, their rules, their understanding of how things work. They did not see alternatives because they did not look for them. They accepted failure. Soren paused, letting the words sink in. You did not accept failure. You did not know enough to know that what you attempted was impossible. So you simply tried. And you succeeded. Kira's voice cut through again, sharp with rage. This is an internal Dominion matter. The human harbored a fugitive. Under the third treaty, this system falls within our jurisdiction. You have no right to interfere. Soren turned slowly to face the sky. When the elder spoke again, the voice was like thunder. The third treaty applies only to worlds that have been claimed. Earth has never been claimed. It belongs to no empire. Its people are free. And from this moment forward, Earth is under the protection of the Free Worlds Coalition. There was a long silence. Then Kira's voice returned, quieter but still dangerous. The Dominion does not recognize your authority. If we choose to take this planet, you cannot stop us. Look around you, Commander. Tejo looked up at the sky. He tried to count the coalition ships. He gave up after reaching 100. They vastly outnumbered the 3 Dominion vessels. You have 3 cruisers, Soren continued. We have 47 battle groups. If you wish to test our resolve, you are welcome to try. But I suspect your Emperor would be unhappy if you started a full-scale war over one small planet and one escaped scientist. Another long silence. Then Kira spoke again. The rage was still there, but controlled now. This is not over. The Dominion does not forget. The Dominion does not forgive. We will return. And when we do, your coalition will not be here to protect these primitives. Perhaps, Soren said calmly, but that is a problem for another day. Today, you will leave. Or today, you will die. Choose. The 3 black vessels hung in the sky for a moment longer. Then, slowly, they began to rise. Higher and higher. When they reached a certain point, they seemed to stretch, to blur, and then they were gone. Vanished into the darkness between stars. Tejo released a breath. He did not know he had been holding. Vel walked over to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. You did it, Vel said. You saved yourself. You saved your village. You may have saved your entire world. Tejo looked at the alien. I didn't do anything. You came. Your coalition came. Because of you. Because you helped me. Because you showed kindness to a stranger when you had every reason to be afraid. Because you fixed my ship when all logic said it was impossible. The beacon only activated because I believed you were worth saving. And I believed that because of what you did. Elder Soren approached them. The other alien leaders followed. Tejo of Earth, Soren said formally. The coalition owes you a debt. But more than that, we offer you an opportunity. Humanity has proven something today. Your species is not just another collection of primitives fighting over territory. You are creative, adaptive, unpredictable. These are rare qualities. Valuable qualities. Soren paused. We would like to offer Earth a place in the coalition. Not as subjects. Not as servants. As allies. Equal partners in our struggle against the Dominion. In exchange, we offer protection, technology, and access to the wider galaxy. Tejo stared at the ancient being. I can't make that decision. I'm just a mechanic. I'm not a leader. I don't speak for Earth. We know. But you are the one we met. You are the one who saved Vel. You are the one we trust. We are not asking you to decide for your world. We are asking you to be the bridge, to help us connect with your people, to help humanity take its first steps into the stars. Tejo thought about everything that had happened. The crash, Vel, the repair, the Dominion, this moment. It was too much, too big, too important. But then he thought about his father's words. Every problem has a solution. You just have to look hard enough. Maybe this was the solution. Not just for him. For everyone. I'll need time, he said slowly. I'll need to talk to people. There are scientists, engineers, leaders, People who understand these things better than I do. Val smiled. That is acceptable. We are not in a hurry. The coalition has existed for millennia. A few of your years means nothing to us. Soren nodded. Take the time you need. 3 days passed after the vessels disappeared. During those 3 days, the world changed completely. People in the village had seen the ships. People in the nearby city had seen them too. Within hours, videos and photographs were spreading across the internet. Governments issued statements. Military forces went on high alert. Scientists demanded explanations. Tejo said nothing. He stayed in his house, avoiding the reporters who came to the village. Avoiding the questions. Avoiding everything. He did not know what to say. How could he explain any of it? How could he tell the world that aliens were real, that humanity was being invited to join a galactic coalition, that everything they knew was about to change? He could not. It was too much for one person. But on the morning of the 4th day, someone came to his door. Someone he did not expect. Her name was Hannah. She was a scientist from Seoul, working at one of the major universities. She was 42 years old, with short gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many long nights in laboratories. She had been sent by the government, she explained, because they had tracked the energy signatures to his farm. I know what happened here, Hannah said, sitting in his kitchen and drinking tea. At least I know some of it. The readings our equipment captured. They should not be possible. Energy patterns that our physics cannot explain. Materials that do not exist on any periodic table. Ships that appeared and disappeared without any visible propulsion. She looked at Tejo with sharp, curious eyes. What really happened? Tejo was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, he told her everything. The crash, Vo, the repair, the Dominion, the coalition, the offer. He held nothing back. When he finished, Hannah was silent. She stared at the wall, processing everything she had heard. You expect me to believe that you fixed alien technology with car batteries and copper wire? She finally asked. I don't expect you to believe anything, Tejo said. I'm just telling you what happened. Hannah shook her head slowly. The funny thing is, I do believe you. Because nothing else makes sense. Our instruments detected energy signatures that violate our understanding of physics. Our satellites tracked ships moving at speeds we cannot explain. Something extraordinary happened here. And you're a mechanic. You fix things. There's no reason for you to lie. She leaned forward. The government wants answers. The world wants answers. They're going to come here eventually. Soldiers, scientists, officials. They're going to take apart your workshop. They're going to question everyone you've ever known. They're going to turn your life inside out looking for explanations. Tejo nodded. He had expected this. But I can help you, Hannah continued. I can be the bridge between you and them. I can translate what you know into language they can understand. I can protect you from the worst of it. If you let me, why would you do that? Hannah smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. Because I became a scientist to discover the unknown, to push the boundaries of what humanity knows. And you, Tejo, you just handed me the greatest discovery in human history. I'm not going to waste that. She reached across the table and extended her hand. Partners? Tejo looked at her hand. He thought about everything that had happened. Everything that was going to happen. He was just a mechanic. He did not know how to deal with governments and media and the weight of history. But he knew how to work with people. How to collaborate. How to solve problems together. He shook her hand. Partners. Over the next week, everything accelerated. Hannah coordinated with the government. A special team was formed in secret. Scientists, engineers, military officers, diplomats, all sworn to confidentiality. All brought to Taeho's village to learn what he knew. He showed them the trench in the rice field, now being examined by specialists in white suits. He explained how Vel's ship had worked as best as he understood it. He described the repair, drawing diagrams on old paper, explaining his thought process. The scientists were skeptical at first. Then they started analyzing the residue left behind. The traces of alien metal. The energy patterns burned into the soil. The evidence was undeniable. One of the engineers, a young man named Dae-young, became particularly fascinated by Taeho's repair technique. "You basically created a workaround," Dae-young said, studying the diagrams. "You did not fix the crystal. You made the crystal irrelevant. You found a new path for the energy that did not need the damaged parts." Taeho shrugged. "I've done it before. Old engines sometimes have cracks you can't fix. So you root around them. Make new connections. Use what still works." The Dae-young shook his head in amazement. "But you did it with alien technology you'd never seen before. Technology based on principles we don't even understand. Energy is energy," Taeho said simply. "It wants to flow. It will always find a way if you give it a path." Dae-young stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed. "You know what? I think that's exactly why it worked. You didn't overthink it. You didn't get caught up in the theory. You just saw a problem and solved it the simplest way possible. Maybe that's what the alien engineers couldn't do. They were too smart, too advanced. They couldn't think simply anymore." As the weeks passed, more people became involved. The secret team grew. International cooperation began, carefully managed. The major nations agreed to work together, at least temporarily, in the face of this new reality. And through it all, Taeho remained at the center. Not as a leader, not as an expert, but as the bridge that Son had asked him to be. The connection between humanity and the stars. One evening, after a long day of meetings and discussions, Taeho walked out to his rice field. The trench had been filled in now. New plants were starting to grow. In a few months, you would never know anything had happened here. He looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Val was probably telling stories about the strange human mechanic who had fixed the impossible. Somewhere out there, the coalition was waiting, watching, hoping that humanity would choose the right path. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was planning its return. So much had changed. So much more was going to change. The world would never be the same. Humanity was about to take its first steps into a universe far larger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. But Taeho did not feel afraid. He felt ready. He had spent his whole life fixing broken things, making them work again, giving them new life. Maybe that was what humanity needed now. Not weapons or technology or power. Just someone willing to look at a broken situation and say, "This can be fixed. Let me try." He thought about Yuna, about how she had always believed in the goodness of people, about how she had told him that kindness was never wasted, even when it seemed pointless. She had been right. One small act of kindness had changed everything. One decision to help a stranger instead of running away. One refusal to give up when all seemed lost. That was the human spirit. Not perfection, not power, just stubbornness, creativity, kindness, the refusal to accept that something was truly beyond repair. Hana found him there, standing in the field, looking at the stars. "The president wants to meet you next week," she said. "Other leaders too. They want to discuss how to respond to the coalition's offer. They want your input." Taeho sighed. "I'm just a mechanic. I don't know anything about politics or diplomacy." "Maybe that's exactly why they need you. You see things differently. You solve problems differently. And you're the one the aliens trusted." She stood beside him, looking up at the same stars. what do you think we should do? Accept the coalition's offer? Tejo was quiet for a long time. I think, he said slowly, that we have been alone for a very long time. We have fought among ourselves, hurt each other, made terrible mistakes. But we have also built beautiful things, created art and music and science, loved each other, helped each other. We are not perfect. We never will be. He turned to look at her. But we are worth saving. We are worth knowing. And if the coalition sees something valuable in us, then maybe we should see it in ourselves too. Hana smiled. That sounds like a yes. That sounds like a beginning. They stood together in the darkness. Two small humans looking up at infinite stars. Behind them, the village was quiet. The workshop was dark. The world was sleeping. But everything was about to wake up. Because humanity was no longer alone, and the universe was about to discover what humans could do when they put their minds to it. Te-ho thought about those words, about how humans were unpredictable, dangerous, valuable. He thought about the Dominion commander's threats, about the war that was surely coming. He thought about all the challenges ahead, all the problems that needed solving, all the things that seemed impossible but were really just waiting for someone stubborn enough to try. Then he walked back to his workshop, picked up a wrench, and started working on old Farmer Park's motorcycle again. It still was not quite right. There was still a problem with the engine timing. A small thing, an easy fix, but that was how everything started. With small things, easy fixes, one problem at a time. The universe had just discovered humanity. And humanity was about to discover itself. One repair at a time.